Hello, I'm Brenda Boyan, and this is Bible Lesson for the Artist, a docufable. About 1,000 years BC, God spoke to David, and in 1 Chronicles 6:31 and 6:32, we see that these are the men whom David put in charge of the service of song in the house of the Lord. They ministered with song before the tabernacle of the tent of meeting until Solomon had built the house of the Lord in Jerusalem. And they performed their service in due order. Now before this, we see singers appointed for a specific event, or people singing but not singers in service. We find more terms of the singer's service in chapter 9, verse 33. Now these are the singers, the heads of the fathers' houses of the Levites, dwelling in the chambers of the temple, free from other service. So they were free from all other service. This was their only job. Now we jump forward about 500 years, and most of the things that God had appointed to happen, to be done, were not being done. So Nehemiah pulled out the books and read them and said, "Oh my goodness, we're not doing any of this." And so he reinstated it. And in 1133 we read, "There was a commandment from the king concerning singers, and a settled provision for the singers as is every day required." And in chapter 12, verse 46, "For in the days of David and Asaph of old, there was a chief of the singers, and there were songs of praise and thanksgiving to God. And all of Israel in the days of Zerubbabel and in the days of Nehemiah gave the daily portions of the singers." So they got paid every day, and people gave money for that every day, as was required. But just one chapter later, okay, while Nehemiah was out of town, we find, now before this, Elijah the priest, who was appointed over the chamber of the house of God, and who was connected with Tobiah, prepared for Tobiah a large chamber where they had previously put the cereal offerings, the frankincense, the vessels, the tithes of grain, wine, and oil, which were given by commandment. So that's where they kept the things. You know, they paid people, they didn't pay them in money. They paid them in these things, though frankincense was a lot like money. It could be traded like money. It was sort of like gold. And these were kept by commandment. So Nehemiah turned his back for a minute and went out of town. And these were kept for the Levites, the singers, the gatekeepers, and the contributions for the priest. Well, the head priest did something with all of these things, and he moved a friend of his into the room where they used to keep them. Okay. And Nehemiah said, "I was very angry, and I threw out all the household furniture of Tobiah in the chamber." So he was actually just living there in this chamber in the temple. And later he says, "And I also found out that the portion of the Levites had not been given to them, so that the Levites and the singers who did the work had fled each to his fields." So they had to go out and get day jobs. Okay. So I remonstrated with the officials, and I said, "Why is the house of God forsaken?" And I gathered them, the Levites and the singers, together and set them in their station. Okay. Now today many churches have choirs. And they pick these choirs from auditions, eliminating the faithful who, don't have so much talent. And many churches use these choirs to record albums, sometimes religious or Christmas. But they also record, a lot of churches do backup singing for commercial albums or non-religious albums, or even do commercial ads, have their choirs in commercial ads. And I promise you, they're not giving away any of these albums, okay, or any of these services. But there is no major church. In fact, there is no church at all that I could find that pays their choir for any of this. Now, what does the Bible teach us here as artists? Okay? If God himself in heaven acts as your agent, as we see here in the Bible, and sets the terms of your contract as required every day, then you will probably not get cheated as soon or as often as those of us who have other agents. But even with God as your agent, chances are, as an artist today, you're still probably going to get ripped off. Thank you for watching.